When we think about the future of medicine, we usually picture the flashy stuff, right? AI, robotic surgery, gene therapy. But behind millions of life-saving diagnoses, there's a hidden, multi-billion-dollar industry that makes a lot of that possible. So today, based on some incredible independent analysis from HDIN Research, we're doing a deep dive into the high-stakes world of contrast media, what I like to call the invisible backbone of modern medicine. Think about it. Every single year, countless CT scans, MRIs, and X-rays are done. But what's that hidden ingredient that lets doctors see inside our bodies with such amazing clarity? Well, the answer to that question is the key to a market that's in the middle of a massive, massive shift. It's called contrast media, and these are basically sophisticated pharmaceutical agents that, when they're put into a patient's body, they essentially light everything up for the scanner. Whether it's finding a tumor or mapping out blood vessels, this stuff is absolutely the invisible backbone of modern diagnostics, no question. And the story of this industry, wow. It's all about intense competition, mind-blowing innovation, and some really high-stakes strategy. It all starts on these sterile production lines and ends up being part of a critical life-or-death moment in patient care. So let's start with the titans of the industry. We're talking about the diversified giants who've dominated this space for decades. Their main weapons? Immense scale and being deeply, deeply integrated into the entire healthcare system. Now, this is what I find really fascinating. You've got the two biggest players, but look at how different their strategies are. On one hand, you have GE Healthcare. They're building this powerful three-part ecosystem. They sell the scanner, the contrast agent that goes in it, and the AI software that reads the results. On the other hand, you've got Bayer. They're reporting very strong gains, but they're pushing beyond just general radiology into these super specialized fields, like precision cardiology. For GE Healthcare, their big defining moment in 2025 was this number, a massive 15.6% revenue growth in their pharmaceutical diagnostics division, which topped out at $2.9 billion. And this wasn't just a lucky break. Nope. It was driven by a really powerful mix of more volume, better pricing, and some very smart acquisitions. Bayer's defining moment? Oh, it was a total strategic masterstroke. They went out and acquired these novel diagnostic tracers from a company called Atralis. Now, this wasn't just them adding another product to the list. It was a clear, calculated pivot into precision cardiology. The goal? To diagnose complex heart conditions way earlier and more accurately than ever before. It's a huge move. Okay, so with all that intense competition from the giants, how is that affecting our second group? Let's talk about the focused specialists. These are the companies that live and breathe contrast media, but they're fighting on a battlefield where being big is a massive, massive advantage. And this slide really illustrates the pressure they're under. Guerbet's 2025 results show a company that is fighting some serious headwinds. Sales were down 3.5%, they got hammered by foreign exchange rates, and their debt went up, which created a real risk of a potential covenant breach in 2026. And what that means is they're in danger of not meeting the terms of their loans. That's the harsh reality of going toe-to-toe with giants. So what you've got here is this crucial trade-off. The giants, they have the scale. They have these massive R&D budgets. But the specialists, like Guerbet and Bracco, who, by the way, are still holding strong with revenues around 1.7 to 2.0 billion euros, they have deep expertise and they're nimble. They can innovate in these niche, high-growth areas like interventional radiology. And that's actually a field where Guerbet has seen some really solid double-digit growth. But hold on, there's a third strategic group jumping into this fight, and they're completely rewriting the rules of the game. I'm talking about the rising powers from Asia. They're leveraging some really unique domestic advantages to compete on a global scale. The story of Hengrui is just fascinating. They're literally fighting a two-front war. On one side, they're getting squeezed by the Chinese government's volume-based procurement policy, which is basically the government using its buying power to force drug prices way, way down. But Hengrui's response has been brilliant. Internally, they're fighting back by taking control of their own raw material supply to slash costs, while at the same time pouring money into R&D for next-gen agents to defend their home turf. And then you've got companies like South Korea's Dongguk Life Science. Their strategy is pretty much a mirror image of the giants, but they're doing it on a regional scale. They're not just selling their own contrast agents. They're bundling them with the distribution of CT and MRI scanners from other companies. They're creating their own powerful local ecosystem. All right, now let's get into a technical issue that is a critical vulnerability for every single player we've just talked about. It's a fundamental weakness that's hidden deep, deep inside the global supply chain. See, The agents used for X-rays and CT scans, they all rely on one very specific element. So what happens when that core ingredient, something that's essential for millions of diagnoses, suddenly becomes rare? While the impact on patient care could be absolutely catastrophic.
That ingredient is iodine. And here's the problem. It's a finite resource. It has to be mined out of the earth, refined, and then shipped all over the world through this incredibly fragile global supply chain. So any disruption, geopolitical, environmental, logistical, you name it, at any point in that chain can trigger immediate worldwide shortages of these essential diagnostic tools.
And this vulnerability is forcing the industry to get really creative. Check out this quote from Bayer's 2025 annual report about their Recontrast initiative. They are literally collecting used contrast media from hospitals to recover and recycle the key ingredients, iodine and gadolinium. How smart is that? It's a brilliant move that tackles both supply chain security and environmental sustainability at the same time. So, after looking at the giants, the specialists, the rising powers, and all these massive underlying pressures, what's the final diagnosis? How healthy is the contrast media industry really? Well, our analysis shows an industry that is fundamentally healthy, and it's definitely growing. But the ground is shifting under everyone's feet. The giants are pushing hard into the future of AI and precision medicine. The specialists are finding new life in those niche areas. The Asian challengers are using cost advantages and targeted R&D to shake things up. And for everyone, supply chain security has become a top priority. And all of this brings us to one final critical question. As diagnostics become totally inseparable from AI, and as these new fields like Theranostics, which is the combination of diagnosis and therapy, start to really take off, the very definition of this industry is changing. The race is on, and it's not just about selling a product anymore. It's about who will own the entire future of medical vision.